But while we lament what happened in the last 2 minutes, and that's horrible, I think a lot of people on this show are going to be surprised about how I feel about this. I know a lot of people were sending me messages and stuff like, I can't wait for you to, go all in on the coach. And I think you're going to be very disappointed, because that's not what's going to happen for me tonight. You're going to hear a whole lot of other things other than coaching tonight. And Bryan, we as we watched the last 2 minutes unfold, and that was brutal. As a former player, I can tell you I've been there. And when things start to snowball on you, there's really not to be able to make the play. And look, before we talk about the last 2 minutes, I want to talk about the other 58 minutes of that game. Okay, there were a lot of missed opportunities. We look back on it, but there was a lot of things that we did really, really well. And look, if the kid doesn't fall down on his way to the end zone, the Glover kid, we won the game. Literally, he tripped over his own feet going into the end zone. And then we don't get the touchdown.
There was a lot of points, throughout that game where it could have gone either way. If they would have just done this
2-point conversion. Yeah. But way more than the 2-point conversion. And let me, but not all of them were missed opportunities. Okay, I thought we played really well. I thought we contained Houston for 58 minutes, and then things just went to hell in a handbasket. And and let me be very clear. Yes, coaches are responsible, but there's a whole lot of responsibility to the players that are on the field. And I want to make it very clear that the coaches can put you in a spot, but at the end of the day, the players have to make plays. And yes, the coach can go over there and say, hey, they kicked the onside kick right over here. You just recovered it. They're probably going to kick there again. And yet the kid didn't make a play. And Bryan, at the end of the day, I know this is going to shock the hell out of a lot of people on this show, but I thought the coaches put our kids in a position to win, and the kids just basically choked. Right.
It's a good thing that this show wasn't, gone live after the game or the day after.
Oh, yeah. This is why we wait to Tuesday.
Yeah, and I forgot to hit the go live button. So our little intro, got messed up. So just in case, we'll tell everyone we were hoping to have an international version, but John Maddox, his internet is not working well in Mexico, so that's why he's not here. And you have me and Larry. But
my camera is not working, so you get my ghost me. But I'm here and as animated as always.
But when I go back, I mean, I guess before we talk about the fourth quarter, I mean, the way Memphis came out and played, I mean, that's. They always said, starting off fast, and they did that. They started off fast. They played well. When you take a look at the drive chart, for Memphis, it was great. I mean, 2 touchdowns to in your first 2 drives. They got the interception from Quindell Johnson. So the way they started, I don't think you could have started any better.
Probably the best start of the year, don't you think? I mean, in terms of versus a quality opponent. And and by the way, Ward, I agree with you. None of us were right all day Saturday and really into Sunday, if I'm honest.
Because I thought it was going to be a low scoring game.
But all kidding aside, I think the way the game played out should have all been in Memphis's favor. And the turning point of the game was the kickoff return, regardless of what anybody says. We had the game in hand. I think we kicked a field goal, right? And it was, I don't remember, but they had the kickoff return. And or that may have been right after the touchdown. I don't remember, Bryan. And to be honest with you,
it was in the fourth quarter. Memphis kicked the 26-yard field goal to go up 29-13, and then that's when the 100-yard kickoff return happened. And then when Memphis gets the ball back, it's at another field goal.
Right. Well, here's the thing: we never stopped scoring. Now we didn't get touchdowns; we got field goals. I've talked on previous shows and previous games how I never felt like we were going to lose. This was a game, no matter what, I was never comfortable. I don't know why. I had a feeling, and it's all my fault, guys. I apologize. But seriously, like I just had a feeling of the whole game, and I don't know why. But the bottom line is, and here's what I'm going to get at for everybody. So here's where coaching does become important. So it's not what happened in the last 2 drives, 4 minutes of the game. It's how is, and by the way, I'm supremely interested to see how this plays out, because this is, to me, is going to define Coach Silverfield in this sense. Not that we collapsed, because collapses happen. I've been through them, and it's frustrating, and it's angry, and I was honestly pissed off. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
But it's what you do after that. So, because now, and we're going to talk about next week's game in a minute, but now you've got 2 tough road games, and how does he keep those last 5 to whatever minutes of the fourth quarter from bleeding over into this week? Because
it's a good thought, because does this fuel the fire inside them to the we let one get away, and how, just like Ward just typed in, how's this team respond? Do they we'll find out real quick, on Saturday if there's any lingering effects, or is that fire sort of burnt in them, because they're mad about what happened the previous week. They just, I guess we could talk about that 2-point conversion. Now, I said at the time, I know
why he did it, but it's a bad decision.
I get it. I've always said that you don't chase points unless you absolutely have to. And I know, he said, I think it was after the game, he said, every coach, would have gone for 2 there. And I know a lot of coaches, and I texted a bunch of them and asked, would you have gone for 2 there? And it was really a 60-40 split. 60 said yes, and 40% would, say no, because they were like, because at that point it was early in the fourth quarter, and it just not, I think it was, early in the fourth quarter. That was after
14 or 13 minutes to go. Because that may have been the second or third play of the fourth quarter. Maybe. I don't remember, but it was really early.
To me, it just wasn't needed. I mean, you're up. To me, you have to have some type of, foresight to think if they start coming back, try to add up the points. I guess he was doing that maybe, and thinking if you do get the 2-point conversion, you're up 21 instead of 19.
It only matters because we lost by 1. It only matters because we lost by 1. We had so many points we left on the field, and so many times we let them get. We had we could have put them away. At some point, you got to make a play, and Bryan, this comes down to, again, I thought the coaches put our kids in a position to play. The defense was exhausted by the end of the game, but regardless of all that, I look. And I don't want to dwell on this game too much because, look, it's going to the next two games are going to define our season to a degree. So I think what I'd like to just sort of, we can get in depth into Houston and all the numbers and all that, but at the end of the day, it was just a brutal loss, but not, as you wrote so correctly, it's not the end of the season. And it does. However, here's what it changes. And I was thinking about this the other day. So what it does change is that when you look at the way that played out, if we win that game, so you're sitting at 5-1, even if you lose one of these road games, you'll be sitting at 6-2. You've got a UCF team that is beatable. You've got a USF team that's definitely beatable. You should win North Alabama, and SMU still up.
Well, you got Tulsa.
I'm sorry, Tulsa.
Did you say US?
USF.
Yeah, not USF.
I did. I'm sorry, Tulsa.
Same difference this year.
Actually, I think USF's better than Tulsa. But anyway, and we're going to talk about Montgomery here in a second. And so, like, these next two games, I'm going to ask you, you at least have to split, right? I mean, you cannot go 0-2 here.
No, you can't, because that definitely puts you out. And you were talking about the that fourth quarter for the Houston. To me, I guess that turning point in the fourth quarter was what was it, 4th and 11, and Clayton Tune broke five tackles.
Yeah.
To me, that's the point. At that point, I'm like, all right, Memphis is going to lose this game. It just, for whatever reason, it wasn't going their way. But oh man, so many missed tackles and chances. You can think Hastings dropped the interception right in his hands. But yeah, going to when we're looking ahead, ECU and Tulane, they're both winnable games. Must win. Too. I'm not sure. Yeah, but yeah.
No. Well, so here's the thing, and here's where it comes. This is where Silverfield's going to be tested. He's got to find a way to get these guys back up, pick them back up, get their confidence back. And look, something bad is going to happen on Saturday. I mean, it's going to happen. It happens in every football game. I think I can have one time in my whole college career where we basically played a perfect game. But I mean, it's going to happen. But they have to get their confidence back, get themselves picked up, and go and make these. Not only make ECU, you gotta go take the fight to ECU, because that's not an easy place to play. It's not. Now,
no, and to me, yeah, to get some confidence back, and I think you got to be aggressive on defense like they were in the first 3+ quarters, because the last two drives that Houston had, I mean, Memphis, they weren't aggressive at all. The second to last drive, it was only 3 down linemen, dropped 8. And then the last drive, I believe they had some 4 down linemen, but there was no blitzing at all the last 2 drives.
Well, again, I would just throw those last 2 drives out and just throw them away. Let's just concentrate on the rest of the game. And the rest of the game, we were
dominated.
Yeah, dominating the line of scrimmage. So let's don't worry about the last 2 drives. Let's just concentrate on how we played. And again, you cannot allow the end of the game to bleed into next week. That's the trick. And look, hey guys, let me everybody's being a Debbie Downer right now, and I get it. Believe me, I get it. But we've got 3 winnable games dead in the face. We got 2 on the road. I mean, look, Tulane looks really good right now, but they got beat by Southern Miss. Okay, so and maybe that was a fluke. Maybe Houston was a fluke, guys. Maybe Houston was an absolute fluke, and we win the next 3 games. We're going to come back in 3 weeks. We look back and go, wow. Yeah, boy, did we really screw up. We had a chance to have a really great year. But look, you win the next 3 games. Totally possible, by the way. It's totally doable.
And we'll talk about the ECU game a little bit more with Kevin Monroe. He is the radio analyst for the Pirate Radio Network, and so we'll take a short break and we'll be right back, and we'll talk a little bit with Kevin.
Looking to get away from it all? Hey, it's John here with Tropical Getaways Travel. And when I'm not following the Tigers, I help families and groups have their next amazing vacation. Maybe you're looking for a cruise, or maybe it's an all-inclusive resort that you've been dreaming of. Either way, I can help you plan a vacation that fits your budget and your lifestyle. When you're ready to start planning that vacation, give me a call at 901-667-8747. That's 901-667-8747. Or you can visit my website at tropicalgetaways.net. Let's start planning your next amazing vacation.
And welcome back to Tigers Tonight. We have our special guest, Kevin Monroe. Kevin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Bryan. How are you?
Not too bad. Glad to have you. We'll just first start off, talk about because you played for ECU back in the 90s, correct?
I did. So, yeah, I played at ECU from 1995 to 1999. Steve Logan was the head coach. You may remember he's the winningest coach in East Carolina history. David Garrard was our quarterback. He played for Jacksonville Jaguars for a while. And we, some people say it was kind of the glory days. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but I think we averaged 7 wins a year. My senior year, we went 9-2 regular season. I ended up losing to LaDainian Tomlinson and TCU in that bowl game. But yeah, had some good times in my playing days. And then shortly after I finished playing, I became a financial advisor in Greenville, right there where East Carolina is. And then one of the things that the financial firm was doing was they were advertising on the football pregame show for East Carolina. And they were doing like a keys to the game. And so it was such and such company, keys to the game. And so they asked the radio station if I could do the keys since I worked there and I was a former player. And they said, sure. So I was able to join every week. They liked, my material, and they asked me if I wanted to be a full-time guy on the pregame show. I did that for a full season. And then as luck would have it, the broadcast, the East Carolina radio broadcast was losing their sideline guy. And they said, we've heard you on these pregame show. Would you like to be on the sideline? And so I was like, sure. I didn't have a communications degree as a business guy, but I got on the sidelines, and I'm interviewing players and coaches, and kind of learning all of it, on the fly, and it went well. And 3 seasons on the sideline, the color analyst, Carl Lester Crumpler, Senior, retired, and they asked me to come up in the booth to be color analyst. That was 17 years ago. This is my 20th year on the broadcast.
What do you remember about the East Carolina Memphis games when you played?
Well,
y'all beat our ass.
I think we won them all. we played about every year, if not every year. I think we won them all. I was a cornerback, and I do remember. I was a pretty good player, all conference my senior year, and I do remember playing at Memphis in 1998, and we won by the skin of our teeth. We just barely got out of there with a victory. But you guys had a little receiver who was pretty good. He was fast. He was probably 5'8", 5'7", and I got caught looking in the backfield on play action, and he caught an 80-yard pass on me. It wasn't a touchdown. I made the tackle, but it's one of those ones that you don't forget as a corner. And so that I remember that play distinctly. We ended up winning the game, but I remember that play. That was definitely the longest pass caught on me in my career.
Go ahead, Larry.
Bonky Perkins.
Is that who it was?
I think that's that. Hey, Bryan Jeb says it's Bunky Perkins. It's Bunky Perkins. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So you guys, you mentioned your coach, obviously Steve Logan. By the way, did you know? And I didn't know this. He actually coached in the American football, whatever the team that Memphis just had a couple of years ago. He was the offensive coordinator at Birmingham.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
Whatever it was. And I didn't know this until I happened to be one of my former coaches, Mike Smith. I ended up coaching the Falcons, and he was the color analyst for that game, and I went up to see him. But anyway, so Logan leaves, or I guess he's resigns or whatever. And it's kind of a desert there for a minute for you guys. By the way, and I got to ask this question: why in the world did you guys fire Ruffin McNeil? I've never figured this out.
Yeah, so there was a couple coaches, I guess, between Ruffin and Logan, but and Logan didn't resign. He was asked to leave. And for those of us that played for him, we couldn't figure that out because we had a coach that was averaging 6 or 7 wins a year. We were going to bowl games every year. And it's one of those things where universities always want more, right? And so we had David Garrard leaves in like 01, I think. And, there was 1 year in there that was like 4-8. And there was another year that was like, 5-7, something like that. And those 2 seasons basically got him fired. And he still says to this day, I would have stayed forever. He was from Tulsa, Oklahoma, but he found a home here in Greenville. He was raising a family. He had 2 kids that went to East Carolina. I mean, it was home for him. And we were looking for the next best thing. And, throughout that time, we were always a school where coaches would come, get some looks, and then go on to the next place. The coach before him was Bill Lewis. He went on to Georgia Tech. And so we finally had a coach that wanted to stay, and that's how we treated him. And so very similar situation with Ruffin McNeil. He got here and, all of his seasons were winning seasons, I think, except for maybe the first one and the last one. There was some talk about maybe there wasn't enough discipline on the team. Ruffin was a super nice guy, and he gave guys 2nd and 3rd and 4th chances. That's just who he was. And for whatever reason, there was a contingent of boosters or people in the front office that just wanted to move on. They wanted to find somebody else. And I think that set us back a ways. And it was sad because, he was the first Black coach, right, hired at East Carolina. So that's one thing. And then he's a great guy. Everybody loved him. He was winning football games, except for, going under 500, the one time right before he got fired. And it just didn't make sense. He was recruiting well. So it was an unfortunate situation. They hired Scotty Montgomery, who I was actually a teammate with the one training camp I spent with the Carolina Panthers in 2000. Great guy, great young offensive mind, probably wasn't ready to be a head coach. And he had 3 straight 3-9 seasons, and recruits weren't coming, and it really just set our program back 10 years. And so, obviously there were some good years in between that. Skip Holtz was here in between Ruffin and Logan, and Skip Holtz won 2 conference championships at East Carolina. So we had some good times since Logan, but in between Ruffin and Scotty, it just really fell off. And thankfully, Coach Houston's got us back on the right track. 500 this year, but winning season last year, first bowl berth in 4 or 5 years. So heading in the right direction. But I can't answer that question about Ruffin. I loved him. I thought he was a great coach, great guy.
Same here.
Yeah, he was tremendous, and I sorry to see him go. But so you did hire Mike Houston, and things have turned around. So let's talk about not just necessarily last year, but do you see that old ECU swagger now with the guys? Do they expect to win? So it's hard to expect to win until you start doing it often, right? And so the fact that they had the winning season last year, I think they realize if they go out and play well, they're going to win more games than they lose. And so that's where the program is headed. We had some lean years. I mean, the John Thompson era in the kind of
03, 02, 03, 04, somewhere in there. I mean, we would line up and give up 50 points every Saturday. We didn't play any defense. And so now the biggest thing that Mike Houston had to do when he got here, because the cupboard was a little bit bare recruiting wise, is that he had to start recruiting players to fit the system that he wanted to coach, right? He wanted to run the football more often. He wanted to be able to stop the run, and to be able to do that, you got to have offensive defensive alignment, right? And it's just hard to recruit that position, those two positions. And so it took him 2 or 3 seasons. But if you look at our roster, we now have players that look like good American Athletic Conference players, right? Before that, we were playing with kind of, we might have 3 or 4 offensive linemen that are pretty good, but they were undersized or what have you. And so now we have got, when we step on the field, just as you saw game 1 against, number 9 NC State, we had enough speed, we had enough size, we had enough strength to play with them from the opening kickoff to the end. And we're like that every week now. I heard you guys talking a little bit about Tulane before I got on. Tulane's a little bit of a different animal now. They play some good defense. For whatever reason, they got this thing figured out, and our receivers just didn't get open last week. But for the most part, offensively, we've been able to score with everybody, and we've been able to stop everybody. So it's been fun to watch us be in every game.
I was talking about. I was going to talk about. Hold on, Larry. This year, you guys are so close to being, a 1-loss team this year. Yeah. What have you seen the progression from last year to this year that you guys really made that jump, and you guys are very close of just like taking that next step to really contending for the conference?
Yeah, so we have 2 sophomore running backs. As you saw, Rajay Harris went down with a season-ending knee injury. But those 2 guys, he and Keaton Mitchell, I'll put them up against any running backs in the conference. And, we call them Thunder and Lightning. Keaton is more of a speed guy. He's probably one of the fastest guys in the conference. He's already broken 3 or 4 runs of 60 yards or more touchdowns this season. And Rajay, he's our boulder. He's got decent speed, but he runs through the tackles. Rajay goes down, not last game, but the game before, ACL. He's done. Keaton also hurt his back. And so he was struggling. In the Tulane game, he just didn't have a whole lot of burst. And so we had to play a freshman in Marlon Gunn Jr. And he is, I like to say, he's a mix of both of them. He can run well, but he's also big and strong, and he's over 200 pounds. He'll run through you. And so I say all that to say the running game got established. The offensive line was opening up holes. We were running the football. And for me, you got to be able to run it first before you can throw it. A lot of teams like to line up and throw and do the spread, but the spread doesn't work if there's no threat of the run. And so the fact that we've been able to run the football, that opens up the play action, that opens up, pass plays downfield, intermediate routes. And we've got some good receivers, 2 transfer receivers, Jalen Johnson and Isaiah Winstead, that have really stepped up, 2 really good tight ends in Calhoun and Jones. And so we've got some playmakers. CJ Johnson, who I didn't even mention, has been in the program for a few years. He and quarterback Holton Ahlers went to high school together. He had 4 touchdowns in the South Florida game. So we've got some weapons that can make plays when the running game is working. That Tulane game, the running game was not working. And then we got into an all-pass situation, and they just shut that down. So not a whole lot was going right for us then. But to answer your question, I think the fact that we've been able to establish a run, and we've been really good defensively stopping the run, that's what I attribute to success so far.
So, and you just because I'm a defensive guy too, like you. So you just mentioned the defense. The most impressive thing, and when I saw you guys in person last year, the one thing I was impressed with was your defensive backfield, because I got to be honest with you, you guys were a sieve for a while there. And I was, I'm just telling you straight up. I was there when we put 70 on you guys. Okay. So it was, rough day. But my point is, I was really impressed with how physical you played in the defensive backfield and how you guys tackled so well against us last year. Tell us about the advancement, not just in your running game, but, the tackling and just the physicality of that defense.
As a former corner myself, I think that you can be a good corner without a pass rush, but you can't be a great corner without a pass rush. I mean, you look at the guys that you think are the stars in the NFL these days, Jalen Ramsey, he's got Aaron Donald and others rushing the quarterback. You know, Trayvon Diggs, that defensive line that he's got in Dallas, go on and go on. If you're going to be a good corner, you got to have somebody putting pressure on the quarterback so you're only covering for 3 or 4 seconds and not 5 or 6 seconds. And so I attribute the rush that we're getting up front, the play of the linebackers, that front seven is playing very, very well, and they're allowing the defensive backs to have opportunities to cover for a short period of time, be aggressive, take some chances, do some things like that, and to make plays. And so I'm excited about the way that they're playing in the back end. And you're right, they do tackle very, very well. We got 3 or 4 safeties that we kind of rotate in that are all good tacklers. They all played special teams before they became starting safeties or rotating in the safety position. And then corner-wise, we had one of the best corners in the conference last year in McMillan, who went on and left after graduating, and he had another year he could have played, but he went on to the NFL. And so some of these younger corners had to step up. But you're right. I mean, they cover well, they tackle well. They've been so much better in the last 2 years than they were before. And we'll still give up some yards here and there. We're third and long has been tough for us. We're good third and short. We're good third and medium, but third and long, for whatever reason, we've had some pass plays get caught on us. So we're getting better. We're a long ways from where we were when we were a sieve, but we're making.
Well, so last one from me. You mentioned Houston, and tell me about what intangible does he have as a head coach that has allowed him to sort of regenerate the excitement in the program?
He's a tough guy. I think he went to Mars Hill, if that's right. He's coached at a lot of smaller schools, the Citadel, James Madison, and he's got that chip on his shoulder kind of guy, which is what we've always had at East Carolina. And let me plug in my computer right quick before it dies. I apologize. But he's the kind of coach that he realizes that when you come to an East Carolina, you are always the redheaded. Oh shoot!
Live radio, folks. You just cannot beat it, and I think we lost him.
We'll keep an eye on see if he comes back.
We'll keep an eye on see if he hops back on. But I'll echo his sentiments. The coaches that go to East Carolina, because that's a tough place, and unlike Memphis has carved out a little section of the state that's ours. I mean, yeah, we have Ole Miss down south. Yeah, we have Arkansas State, Jonesboro, but really West Tennessee is Memphis's, right? I mean, you East Carolina, something that I kind of learned when I lived over there, and is that they're sort of without a country, and they're not very far from Raleigh. They're not they're not very far from Virginia, University of Virginia. So there's really not an interstate that runs to Greenville. So it's a tough gig. And we didn't get to ask him his prediction for this week, but I'll
here he is.
all right.
Let's see if he comes back.
Let's see.
You there, Ken?
Let's see if the laptop
Sorry about that. That's a rookie move right there.
No, you're good.
Yeah, there he is.
We're plugged in. My bad. All right, so I'm sorry. I was talking about Mike Houston. He's got that chip on his shoulder that you need at East Carolina, right? Because we've always fought for that respect around NC State, UNC Chapel Hill, Wake Forest, the other football schools in this state. And so, we consider ourselves a football school where I think a lot of those are basketball schools. And so we've been able to carve out that niche, but it takes a hard-nosed coach to come in here to handle the fans, to handle the expectations, and to get us winning like we feel like we should be winning in football. I think he's got the right mentality. Plus, he's got the right mix of that spread offense but the running of the football. And he brings that toughness to the offensive line. He brings that toughness to the team, and so I think that's what's allowed him to be successful. But you have to win games. You have to win games for one to be successful as a coach, but also to win the locker room. And I don't care what you say as a coach. If I laugh because my son plays high school football, and I think they're 2-5, 2-6, something like that right now. And he says the coach says the same thing every week, but they keep losing. And so you can't get a team to buy in and to believe what you're saying if it doesn't result in wins. And so this last season was huge for us, getting bowl eligible, getting to 7 wins. And so now I think the team is bought in and they're playing, Mike Houston brand of football.
A couple more for me before we let you go. You have, I think, 7 interceptions in your career. Was the one against Louisville the most memorable for you?
Yeah, I mean that was cool. I mean it was a game, and I'm trying to remember the quarterback. He went on to play in the NFL. It'll come to me, but it was one of those games where they had this tight end. I don't know if you remember Ivan Green, and he was built like a receiver that they kind of split out wide, and that's before people were really doing that. And so at the corner positions, myself and my corner mate Forrest Foster were playing pretty good, but a lot of things were happening over the middle with the safeties and linebackers. And this kid had 200 yards receiving that game. They had put up, I think the final score was like 63-49. They beat us. And so it was just a shootout. David Garrard and this quarterback were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So it wasn't one of those things where, we were winning or the game was really close and I pick off this pass. It was just one of those situations where we were within maybe 3 touchdowns at the time. I'm guarding a fade route, back of the end zone. I step in front of the receiver, pick it off, get one block. And coach always said, don't bring it out of the end zone unless you can get to the 20. And I knew I could get to the 20 based on what I could see in front of me. So I took off out of the end zone, and I had a host of guys blocking for me down the sidelines. And, you only get credit for 100 yards in college, but it was probably more like 108.
Yeah, it was Chris Redmond, I believe, the quarterback.
Redmond, yeah.
I think you're right.
Yep. All right, then last one for me. I don't want you to give a prediction for Saturday's game, but what type of game are you expecting this to be?
Well, I would say the Tulane game was bad for you guys because I think we were embarrassed. I think we were embarrassed offensively. I think we were embarrassed a little bit in the secondary, and I don't expect them to play like that again. I think the offense will be more creative. I think the offense will be more effective. So I expect the Pirates to score more than 9 points. I'll say that. But I like what Memphis has done this year, and I don't think that. I'll say this with 3 wins, knowing that the Pirates still have Cincinnati on the schedule, Houston on the schedule, BYU on the schedule. Getting 3 more and getting bowl eligible is starting to look less and less easy, and so they know they have to beat Memphis. They know they have to beat Temple, and then they got to try to either beat Central Florida or one of those other teams I mentioned. And so you're going to get the best that East Carolina can offer on Saturday. I'll say that. I don't know what that means, but their backs are up against the wall, and it's funny to say just 6 games into the season, but they realize to get bowl eligible, there's not a whole lot of wins left out there.
All right, we appreciate your time, Kevin.
One last comment.
Oh, you got
I got one last comment. Your radio partner Jeff Charles had the greatest call of a play I have ever heard. So one thing about him, he gets very excited when your team does well, but he gets equally as dejected when things go. And you guys are playing us. I was actually living in North Carolina at the time, and I was listening to D'Angelo Williams broke a long run in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
And this was the deciding play. And I don't know if you were involved in this, but the call was something like, you could just hear the crowd. He goes, and there he goes again.
I think I was on the sideline back then. I think when D'Angelo came through, I was still on the sideline. But yeah, I was on the broadcast. And the one thing I learned from Jeff, Jeff didn't go to East Carolina. He is a I forget the college he went through. Forgive me, but he didn't go to East Carolina. And he started out at Virginia Tech, and did a bunch of those smaller schools in Virginia Tech, and then came to us. And so he learned early on that nobody likes a homer, and that was the thing he told me. I know you played here, but you can't say we every time we do something bad or do something good. You can't be you. If someone's turning on the radio and they are a fan of Memphis, they should be able to enjoy our broadcast just as much as East Carolina fans should be able to enjoy the broadcast. So I learned that early on. So he gets excited for other teams scoring. Sometimes it drives me crazy, but he does that the right way. He wants to make sure he calls a good game. So it's almost like just turning on ESPN and getting two random broadcasters doing it. He does a great job.
Well, bravo. You guys are excellent.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
No problem, Kevin. You have a good night, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Bye-bye.
That was Kevin Monroe, part of the Pirates Radio Network. We appreciate his time. Larry, looking ahead, who would have thought before the season that, Memphis and East Carolina would both have losses going into this game? Both teams are going to be very hungry.
I could see Memphis losing the Houston game because I predicted it. I did not see them losing to Tulane. Even though the game was in New Orleans. By the way, Jeb, I do want to hear that call again. I really do. Because that was a great – you just had to hear the dejection in his voice. It was just like, again. All right.
Yeah.
That was one of those D'Angelo ran for like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, a crazy thing. But, going into this game again, for me, I want us to win. But the thing I am just as an observer, I am so excited. Maybe it's not the word, but curious to see how do we respond? How do you come up off the mat? Because, look, you're going to get punched in the mouth. You're going to get knocked down. I am supremely. What time's the game, Bryan? Look it up. I don't remember. Is it 6?
6:30.
6:30. So you had an extra day to stew on it. I agree with Kevin. I think both teams are going to give maximum effort. I really do. Yeah, Jeb, thank you. 225 yards and 4 touchdowns. I remember.
Dude's a Memphis encyclopedia.
Yeah, it was like Bunky Perkins. Where do you come up with that name? But I mean, look, they're going to be hammered. Their fans are going to be just hammered. That's the way it is. There's literally nothing else to do. But over there, but just go to the games and have fun, which is great. That's a great college atmosphere. But look, it's going to be hostile, and we've got to go in. If you want to win, you're going to have to take it to them because you're going to get their maximum effort. I do believe that. And Memphis is. I'll be honest. I've watched a couple of ECU games. What I see is I think Ehlers is a really good quarterback. I don't know how much talent they have skill on the skill positions. They don't have anybody that's going to run by you, honestly. And I'll watch somebody will run all over us, right? They've got some good running backs, but they're not game breakers. And I think their offensive line is good, not great. And I just think let me put it a different way. I think overall, the overall level of talent on the Houston team on the ECU team is not as high as it is on Houston, a team we completely dominated. And I think defensively, they're very good. They're good, not very good. They're good defensively, but they give up yards. And it's a bend but don't break defense. And I'm not going to give a prediction just yet, but I will say this. If you watch how Memphis plays and moves the ball, I think we're going to move the ball fairly effectively. I just would like to see more big plays out of Memphis because that's the one element that we've missed this year. Don't you think?
Yeah, well, what I do like is the open up the bag of tricks. Sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't. But I think that was missing past couple of years. And Coach Cramsey, it seems like he has a knack for knowing when to call a trick play, which is exciting to watch. Me personally, I still want to see some more of those Mike Norvell screens.
I want to see more of the Glover kid take a direct snap, because look. I'm not gonna jump on the coaches, but he ran the ball straight down the field. Would have scored if he had tripped over his own feet. You take him out of the game. No. You run that play until they stop it. I'm sorry. You keep doing that. And if they don't stop it, then you just keep running that. I want to see a package out of him. So, but and by the way, whoever said it, Ward, you're exactly right. We have not given enough love to Gabe Rogers. He played a heck of a game last Friday night. Excuse me. Gabe Rogers and Asa Martin both played really, really well. Priest Corn played again. We played really well. We just didn't finish.
Just didn't finish.
And guys and ladies, everybody, like I'm not as it took me 48 hours. Let me be very clear.
Yeah.
But once I got over the shock, I was able to sit back and go, okay, if we can play like that the rest of the way, we're going to be fine. I don't think we're going to win the conference. I don't. But I can certainly see us, certainly I think we make a bowl. Certainly I think we win 7-8 games, maybe more. But if we can just play like that Saturday, I think we'll be fine.
All right, so we'll do the prediction time, and we'll let you go first.
Sure.
Let's see. We'll give it. It starts at 6:30. Let's say.
Oh my God, we're gonna do the John thing.
Yeah, we'll try. I'll try to be John. No one can ever be John, but let's just say 10:05. I was going to say 9:55, but at 10 minutes, give it a
All right, that's fine. It won't be a John Maddox.
Give me give me your prediction and a bold prediction for this week.
I've vacillated. And Jeb, you're 100% right. It's going to come down to mental state. I think we come back. I think we play well. It's a tough place to play on the road. It's going to be a close game, but I just think that we're just better overall, and I see Memphis maybe 31-28 or maybe even more like a 38-35 game.
Man, bold prediction.
Oh, yeah. Bold prediction. I think Brady breaks out of his whatever mini slump he has, and he throws for over 300 yards.
Hennigan, you mean?
Yeah. What did I say?
He said Brady. It'd be nice if he had one more year.
Seth. I'm sorry, Seth.
Yes.
I knew you already don't like me, but I'm sorry.
Man, you took my score. I was thinking 31 points for Memphis. So I was thinking 31-27. I still think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a dogfight, man. And it could be a very low-scoring game up until the last quarter, just like last week. I see quite a few punts. Man, as far as a bold prediction, I'm going. I've already had the defensive touchdown. I'm going to go with a special teams touchdown, whether it be a punt return or a kick return. Because I think it's going to.
That last week, and I got shot in the foot. Which, by the way, we were rock solid on. By the way, we were rock solid on special teams last week until the kickoff return. Rock solid. I was sitting there going, "We've been rock solid." And yeah, Jab. Well, let's hope it's not a 4-hour game. I'm going to be in Hattiesburg with my daughter, so I'll be following along, in the stadium. So that's the best I can do. But guys, I just want to say one last thing in passing, and then I'll let you close out the show. But it's this: it's that bad things happen to good teams, and it's not the end of the world, as you wrote. I am not going to throw our coaches under the bus for this one. For Houston per se. Yeah, I mean we can it just happened all so fast and snowballed, guys. I've been a coach. I can tell you it's hard. It's really hard. But what I'm not going to give them a pass for is this week. You got to get the kids ready to play. You got a tough game, and if there's any bleed over, now that's on the coaches. And it's just that simple.
Yeah, and for me, I would also like to see, I guess, just a little bit less analytics. You have more of a football sense and not, trust the analytics said we should
read the crowd, man. Read the crowd.
Read the crowd. Read the game. I mean, just you trust your gut and less analytics. But hopefully we'll have John here back next week, so it goes a little bit more smoothly than it did this week. Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't come back with anything else. Yeah. But appreciate everyone watching, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.